Hey, let's talk about games. Hello my friend, welcome back. We're going to be going through the first of my Gladius guides videos today. We're going to be going through a simple question: where do I place my base? It sounds simple, it sounds like it's not going to have a big impact on your gameplay, but trust me, the starting placement of your base is going to determine your early game economy, and it's going to be the difference between having enough resources for your chosen starting strategy or being a little bit resource starved and having to wait extra turns and stumble around for a little while you're trying to get your economy going. So without wasting any more time, let's get loaded into some gameplay and look at some of the variables we're going to need to consider when placing down our base. So here we are within a fairly standard starting position. We've got our tech priest down here, and if we click Found City, what we'll notice is that every single tile in this game will have certain benefits and sometimes even some negatives when you build upon them. What you'll notice is that each of these will coincide with a resource, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, and this is the bonus that will apply to any buildings placed upon this. If you place a building that does not generate this resource, it will do sod all. So that's something worth considering. Let's, for example, say we want to go for an infantry rush, which is something that costs a lot of food to make and a lot of food to upkeep. If we're going to build here, our starting +6 per turn is going to get a 40% bonus, so that's going to be really helpful for us. Okay, so now if we hover over to the top left, you'll see we're getting 6 from building and 2.4 from the feature, and that is going to be contributing to our overall economy to begin with, and it's going to make a big difference after about 5, 6, 7 turns when you finally got that barracks built, when you finally got a few tiles and a little bit of space. When you start production, you're probably going to accumulate 5, 10, maybe even 15 resources, which is going to be the difference between having an extra couple that you can build and upkeep and maybe having to wait a few turns to get another building in place. A big difference. Now that brings us very neatly onto tip number 2, and this comes in the form of outpost consideration. Now, each of these comes with a bonus from being occupied and a bonus from being built upon or built around. So if we hover over here to the food tile, we'll see we get 2 per turn from actually occupying this, so we're on -3 at the moment. And now we're on -1 because we've occupied it. Likewise with the influence over here, he's already moved. Now we're only on -7. However, there is a secondary mechanic at play here as well. The extra 20% that's demonstrated here actually applies to adjacent tiles. So what that means is that if I build somewhere like, let's say right here, we're going to get a bonus of +30% for building on this tile, and then we're going to get another bonus of 20% for building on this tile adjacent to this one. Remember, it only works in the nearby vicinity. So if we hover over to our food up here, what you'll notice is that we've got +6 from the building and now a massive 3.8 from nearby features. This +7 per turn is really going to add up. But it's also worth considering that now, if I want to place food buildings around here, I can actually stack them up close by, and every single one of these tiles that's adjacent to this is going to get that benefit if I place a farm or a food producing building on here. This, for me, is probably the biggest thing to consider when starting off within this game, because you want to pick your starting resource, you want to know or have a rough idea what you're going to need, what you're going to find useful for your preferred strategy, and then you're going to have to work with it and try and make the best you can of the scenario. Sometimes you will get simple outposts nearby that do not have what you want, and you can always then build to maximize off of what you do have. So if you didn't want to do a vehicle rush but you do have a lot of bonus to war, maybe it's time to try a vehicle rush. Likewise for influence, maybe it's time to try a hero rush. Have a look at what units cost, have a look at what they cost to upkeep as well as produce, and make your decision on your starting tiles based on what you're going to need. Obviously this comes with a little bit of time, and we will be doing some faction specific guides, but it's really important to know what units are, what they cost, what they're going to cost to upkeep. That way you can plan ahead, because planning ahead within this game actually really counts for quite a lot. And it's also worth considering while we're here, that research is perhaps a little bit of an unsung hero. +40 or +60% if we go to the research tab over here, will bring this timer down from 3 turns to 1. Likewise over here, it will bring it down from about 3 turns to 2 turns, and suddenly you'll find yourself getting much better stuff like a pain boy, heavy armor, much quicker, and allowing you to get researched access to much better units much faster than your opponent if they'd gone for something like a standard food rush. Now, it's probably worth mentioning too that the Space Marines actually deploy their city manually or via orbit from the top left over here. So we can see there's a couple of suggestions flashing, but we're going to have a good snoop around. So one thing I'd also recommend considering is the amount of buildings you can place within a tile. You'll notice most of these will read 2, but every now and again you'll get a 3. Sometimes these can be exceptionally powerful and exceptionally useful. This 3 tile in particular might not seem like it's particularly good. It's only got 20% research, but the starting building only occupies 2 slots. This might not seem like a big deal, but what I can do is start building an Apothecarium straight away on this tile. So if time is of the essence and you want to build stuff as quickly as you can, if you're building something like a forward outpost and you're going to want to get a barracks as fast as you can, getting yourself a 3 tile is going to be a little bit faster, especially if you're on some of the slower speeds to getting some of these production buildings going. Now, something else worth considering is that the tile radius you can build upon is 2 tiles. This is without research and it can be enlarged. What we'll do is move our guard out of the way, and if we go ahead and build here, what you'll notice is that we actually have potential to build to both of these outposts without having to wait too long in terms of the overall research. Now, we won't be getting the benefit from being adjacent to them, but it does mean we can make 2 small nodes, one for research, one for a little bit of influence over here, and that is also something to consider as well. This can be increased to a radius of 3 tiles, but again, it's going to come much later on within the research tree, and it's going to take you a little while to get to. So something to consider for the mid game. Even though you won't be getting that early bonus in terms of resource generation, you might be able to potentially make it work for you a few turns down the line, like turn 20, 30, etc. Once you've got your base up and running, you'll be able to get a few extra bonuses and a few extra bits coming in. Something to consider. And lastly, a little bit of good news for you Necron players out there. You could probably have just skipped the entire video because, well, you just have to build where you're told. You can build on a Necron tomb, you will spawn on a Necron tomb, and that's pretty much all you get. So not much to worry about there. You are lucky enough to normally spawn automatically near an outpost or directly touching it, I think, in terms of balancing, but that really is all there is to consider for Necron. So sorry guys if you've wasted your time thus far. Guys, I hope you found the video useful. I'd love to know what you would like to know for the rest of this game. I've got a lot of videos planned, a lot of little minutiae and things to consider, but do feel free to let me know down in the comments below and I'll make sure I add it to the to-do list. Take care guys, I'll see you soon.